Peace, family, peace. This is Prime Harmonic, and I'm here to talk about grounding. I'm doing this presentation with the Prepare to Breathe Better Slack channel, and I am presenting this information first before we discuss it because there's a lot to take in. Grounding can take many forms. So first I'm going to discuss physical grounding, and then I'm going to go into emotional, mental, and spiritual grounding. What is grounding? First and foremost, let's get a definition. Grounding can be mechanical, meaning you hold something to a foundation or keep it from falling due to gravity. It can be electrical, meaning you reroute lightning or shocks into the ground of a system. Where does that lightning come from? It comes from thunderstorms, where cosmic rays provide positive charge, creating a difference in potential within the cloud, and that cloud charges the earth with negative ions. That's why we ground to the earth, because it is the lowest voltage potential that we have access to walking on the surface. Mechanically speaking, posture is the thing that will see you through to a long life and good energy. Neutral spine is a term used when your back and therefore your spinal column is in its natural neutral posture. This comes from the National Institute of Health. There are 3 natural curves in your spine. The one at your neck is the cervical curve that is supposed to curve inward from your back of your neck towards your throat a bit. The next is your thoracic curve, which is in the middle of your back, and it's supposed to curve outward a bit from the heart towards the rear. And then there's the sacral curve, which curves inward at your lower back from the back towards the belly button. There are certain things that you need to remember when operating your spine and body for lifting. So I've included a slide just to show, because not everybody knows these tips, but lift with your legs, tighten your stomach muscles. Do not try to twist your spine while you're lifting something heavy. It is not really made for that type of motion. Not to say that you can't get used to it if you perform various exercises and weightlifting. However, understand that your spine is made truly to lift your body into an erect posture, to bend forward, bend up, lean to the side, lean to the other side. But when you pivot and twist, you're going to have to develop a whole new set of muscles. A very good exercise to help you with your posture is the Mabu, horse stance, Mabu horse stance. A very good video on Mabu is on YouTube, provided by Sifu Yan Xin, and it's on kungfu.life on YouTube. He goes into the horse stance and gives decent exercises on how to increase your endurance in the horse stance. Definitely worth a watch and listen. And he's very energetic. He will keep you engaged. When we speak about electrical grounding, which is still in the physical realm, we must understand that in this instance, grounding is a conducting connection, intentional or not, between the electrical circuit or equipment and the earth. So if you have a antenna tower or a house or a barn silo, and there's a lightning rod in place on it, that lightning rod or that grounding bar or any other mechanism used to divert electricity from lightning goes to the ground. And in this case, ground means just that, ground. The lightning strike discharges as a direct current, meaning it's a constant charge, or constant voltage, I should say. The charge will dissipate as the lightning strike fades away, but there's a voltage difference between the earth and the sky. And when that voltage distance reaches a certain point, the atmosphere breaks down, and then electrical charges travel from the thunderclouds into the ground. Once that is completed, then it is done. It's not like an alternating current, which moves back and forth, like the 60 hertz current of electricity going through your house. That current is on a specific timing. If you go to the UK and other countries, sometimes it's on 55 hertz, and a hertz is just a cycle per second. So there is a reason why the current alternates, and it's the way it's produced from the generators, whether those generators are run by coal or hydro electric means. And alternating current is just that. It alternates back and forth between positive and negative voltage on two or more lines. In the atmosphere, we basically have a direct current electric field. It does not really alternate. All of the cosmic particles that come from the sun, outer space, other galaxies, planets, all of the particles that make their way to the earth have to contend with our Earth's magnetic field. But nonetheless, at about 50,000 feet up, all of those positive particles tend to kind of start to slow down, and we tend to get more towards electronegative as we hit the ground. Nikola Tesla and other people have built various machines utilizing this difference in atmospheric potential. At the ground level, 0 feet, this is the most electronegative position you can attain unless you burrow deeper or go into the ocean. But ground level is what people call 0 volts, but it's just a reference. Ground is what we consider to be 0 volts. It could actually be a little more than that. When you go up about 1 meter or 3 feet in the air, the atmosphere increases to a voltage potential of about 100 volts. When you go up into the air about 2 meters or 6.6 feet, you get 200 volts, and so on. This gradient continues up into the atmosphere until you get to that layer at 400,000 volts, which happens at 50,000 feet, roughly. That being said, ground occurs because you're in contact with the ground. Why is it important to be in contact with the ground? Because then you get the electrons flowing into your body. They flow easier if your skin is wet. If your skin is not wet, they will still flow easily if you're barefooted. So if you're standing on the ground barefooted, or your hands are on the ground, bare hands, you're absorbing electrons from the earth. The good thing about those electrons is that they help your body to remove free radicals. This is very important in respiration. It's very important in waste management of your body streams, and it's just important for overall good health. One of the best ways to get a good grounding effect is to be around nature, because trees have their shoes off all the time and they're dug into the earth. Think about the tree's roots as its feet. The root of the tree is inside of the earth. So the tree itself has water moving through its limbs and leaves and is electrically conductive. So the electrical negative aspect of the earth follows up into the trees, lifting it up like a canopy over top of you. That's why it's good to be around trees. If you're not around trees, is somewhat like the previous diagram, where the electrical gradient will bend itself around you as long as you're in contact with the earth. This also helps when you want to mitigate electromagnetic forces such as radio signals, microwave signals, and electromagnetic forces that may be around you in the atmosphere. It's good to be grounded, or to be by trees, or to be by objects that are grounded, so that you can ground yourself, such as metal grates to storm drains. Again, the mechanism of providing Earth with negative charge comes from thunderclouds. As positive ions accumulate in the Earth's atmosphere and warm currents of air cause circulation, there's an exchange of ions within the cloud, and negative ions tend to drift downward. Eventually, they break the atmosphere's potential to withhold charge from running through it, and then they discharge into the ground. So the electrical ions, or electrons, that accumulate at the bottom of a cloud tend to be what we consider the cause of our lightning. First, a leader electron or stream of electrons floats through the sky, and eventually that leader will get very close to or touch the ground. Once this happens, then the rest of the electrons follow very quickly. The Earth's atmosphere has many layers. About 80% of the mass of our atmosphere is in the troposphere. Beyond that is the stratosphere, then the mesosphere, and then the ionosphere. The ionosphere is where we get all of our cosmic rays from. And those allow us to get the positive charges that run the thundercloud phenomena and gives us negative charging on the ground. Again, the ions that come to us through space do have to contend with Earth's magnetic field, but the Earth's magnetic field, in combination with the cosmic rays that we receive, have created a balance that helps sustain human life. Electrically grounding is very important. And yes, it is better to ground on the earth, but there are ways to ground without the earth. For example, if your house, apartment, or other dwelling is equipped with proper electrical wiring, then the grounding of that wiring should be connected to a ground bar in your electrical system, which is then connected to the earth. If that is the case, then you can buy certain things like conducting blankets or mats. And the Journal of Environmental and Public Health has published an article about how it increases quality of sleep, reduces pain, and improves or lessens heart rate variability. And there are reductions in overall stress levels when grounding. Understand that your body runs on electricity. And again, the extra electrons that you can provide to it from grounding can be used by it quite easily and readily to help its processes along. Every conduit or nerve that controls every aspect of your motion is an electrical conduit. It changes chemical potential to build up a voltage charge. And when that voltage charge breaks through the conductivity of the nerve cell, you get a charge potential that discharges, causing electrons or energy to move through your nervous system to activate further neurons, or to activate a muscle, or to activate a reaction of some sort. The electrical and magnetic worlds are linked together in physics. The physics of our inertial frame, or our Earth space, dictates that an electrical signal is a magnetic signal. It just depends on relativity in how you look at it. Maxwell's equations neatly tied this relationship up. I've listed the 4 equations for people that are math savvy to say what each of those equations mean. The first equation means that electric charge originates from or converges to a point. The second equation means magnetic field lines continually circulate. There is no origination point. In other words, if you break a magnet which has a north-south pole, you cannot break it and then end up with a just North Pole magnet or just South Pole magnet. If you break a magnet, you now have 2 magnets that both have a north and south pole. The third equation means that a time-varying magnetic field induces a spatially varying electric field. In other words, if you drop a magnet through a coil of wire, you will induce a current in that coil of wire. By the same token, the fourth equation says that a time-varying electric field induces a current density and a spatially varying magnetic field. This is kind of how speakers work. If you apply an electric current through a coil of wire, you produce a magnetic field. That magnetic field will fight against the permanent magnet that's usually in the back of a speaker driver and vibrate the paper cone. That is how you get your sound. All in all, the electromagnetic wave means energy. Electromagnetic, when you think of electromagnetic, think of it as just looking at 2 sides of a coin. That coin can be considered as photons or light, what we call radio waves. Light comes in many different forms. Some of it is visible to us. Some of it is not. Some of it is in the form of ultraviolet light. Some of it is in the form of infrared light. Infrared are microwaves, radio waves. Ultraviolet are X-rays, gamma rays, things of that nature. All of these can be considered as light. You'll hear them by many different names in your lifetime, but it should be easier for you to think about if you think about it as just different forms of light. Emotionally grounding. When one emotionally grounds, you have to think of it as discharging lightning. But that lightning now is not the lightning of the electrons in the clouds. The ground of the emotion is the base from which all sensational motivation on this planet has taken place for you. In other words, when you were a baby and you had no concept of sensation, then you didn't really have anything to attach to sensation. It became a cloud floating by for you. As we get older and we learn to attach names and phenomena to sensations, then we start to change what is the focus of our pure perception. So sensation tends to gain a different meaning as we tend to lose the focus of pure perception. The prolonged pointing of attention to sensation creates identification or attachment with that sensation. We can easily let go of that attachment just as easily as we fell into it. We call the energy of the prolonged pointing emotion because that energy can motivate or move us. But again, it is our choice as to how much of that we allow to move us. When our emotions are misaligned, then we end up having focus problems in our lives. I've labeled that diagram as hot mess because I think we can all identify with that. At some point, we've all been a hot mess. Just like light can break into various wavelengths that provide us what we sense as color, our energies have different wavelengths as well. Our sacral and root energy tends to be of a lower vibration because it identifies closer with the earth energy. A lot of you all have heard of Schumann resonance. It means basically the energy vibration of the earth, and it tends to be around 7 hertz. Cosmic particles, such as protons, photons, electrons, things of that nature, tend to have a higher vibratory rate, and these correspond with our lower and higher chakras. The higher energy centers of our body tend to vibrate at a higher rate. The lower energy centers of our body tend to vibrate at a lower rate. This is not good nor bad. This is just stating a fact. You cannot have a rainbow without all of the colors of the rainbow. It doesn't mean that purple is better than red or red is better than purple. It just means that these are all different aspects of light. You have a light body or an electrical or magnetic or energy body, which moves all of your matter. The whole human race, if you took every atomic particle within them and eliminated the 99.9% space between those particles, all of our bodies could fit into the size of a sugar cube. It would be a heavy sugar cube, but all of our bodies combined would fit into a sugar cube. You are mostly space. That which moves your matter is energy. Energy is light. Light comes in different wavelengths. When you get your wavelengths in phase and learn to focus your attention, sometimes you can learn to focus your attention mostly to things outside of you, such as money, such as people, or a person, a love interest, a place you might want to live, a food you might want to taste. We tend to learn to focus our energies. And when we do that, we enhance our law of attraction capabilities. But as long as we tend to stay focused on things outside of us, then our alignment will not serve us. Our alignment will only serve the corporations and other entities that want to use your energy and time to help push their product. There's nothing wrong with that. However, there is a way to go beyond attention to the outside, and that is attention to self, attention to what is going on within you, attention to your emotions, attention to your feelings, attention to your energy, attention to your body, your physical grounding. When you shift your attention to the inside, now your light tends to become emanating from you like sunshine, as opposed to you focusing laser beam like on something that you want or desire. In order to soothe difficult emotions, one can focus on breathing in and out, not necessarily trying to change the breathing, but just focusing on the breath. Focusing on some aspect of the physical world rather than internal thoughts can also help. Also, focusing on the present rather than the past or future can also help when dealing with emotional situations. Mentally grounding is very important. And just as emotional grounding has its basis in the sensations, mentally grounding has its basis in what we call the mind or heart or thoughts, desires. It's the base from which all learning on this planet has taken place for you. It is yourself perceiving before you were taught. As babies, no one is teaching you anything. You learn by putting objects in your mouth or by feeling certain things, touching, tasting, smelling. These are all things that are learned. A very good book that I would recommend is Vaster Than Space, Greater Than Sky by Muji. Learn to return to your primordial state of perception so that your mind will be a tool that you use, as opposed to you being a slave to your mind, because the mind is programmed through socio-economic linguistics that you have learned, and socioeconomic cues, emotions, objects, whatever you want to consider it as, the tribe into which you were born. Your mind has been trained by all of those things from the time you were born. It is important to get back to a primordial self. Spiritually grounding. Again, you are energy. You are light, moving molecules of your physical body. That light, that energy is consciousness. In its highest form, it is consciousness. The ground of spiritual is pure awareness. Spiritual grounding is knowing and actually acting like you know your place in the universe. And knowing that your place in the universe is planned and assured. It is knowing that there is more than you and less than you, yet all are equal. My teacher used to say, the only true knowledge is experience. And your spiritual experience is unique to you. It does not need validation from others, but it does require your participation to become energized. And it requires your faith through practice to become grounded. I hope you all have enjoyed this presentation. I will come back with a live so that we can discuss any details on grounding. Take care. Stay well.